Hi there, I'm Dee from Dee's Bees. Welcome along. Today we're going to make beeswax wraps using our beeswax blend. Now, we talked yesterday about selecting fabric, cotton fabric of course, to make your wraps with, so today we'll get straight into it. Now, you can make any size wrap that's going to suit you, right from a small disc to cover the mouth of your wine bottle and keep the midges out, to a great big one to cover a platter for when you're feeding a crowd. Just choose whatever size you think is going to be most convenient for you to use. And as far as cutting your fabric goes, well, I'm cutting hundreds at a time, so I use a rotary cutter. If you have pinking shears, there's a little zigzag edge scissors, those are great, but you don't need them. Please don't go out and buy a pair of pinking shears just to make these wraps. That's kind of the opposite of what we're about. We're about reducing waste and saving some money, and we don't need to buy special tools just for this project. So, ordinary scissors, a straight edge scissor will do just fine. And today the wrap we're going to make, I've pinked a couple of edges and I've straight cut a couple of edges because the wax is going to hold those edges together for us anyway, so we don't need to worry so much about fraying. So, not a lot of tools that we need. We need a work surface, we need an iron of course for our heat source, we need to cut our fabric, we need to shave our block. So I'm going to just turn the camera down now and I'll show you my setup and what we need. There we go, hopefully that'll catch everything. Right, first, work surface. I'm just at my dining table at the moment, but I've got down a sheet of ply just to protect it. If you haven't got something like that, you might just lay down a couple of old towels, just to insulate your surface from the heat of the iron. Or if you are working on an ironing board, an old towel is still a good idea just in case any wax gets in the way. You don't want that ending up on your ironing board and then later on your clothes. So on my work surface I've spread a sheet of waxed baking paper. Any old brand will do, but it does want to be wax paper or greaseproof paper, because the wax is going to, or the waxed paper is going to ensure that our beeswax stays on the fabric and doesn't go through to the work surface or to the surface of our iron. Now, if you're making a smaller wrap, single sheet will be fine. If you're making a larger wrap, all you need to do is lay out the size that you need and just overlap them really well. The wax won't run that far under. So there's your work surface set up. My iron is heating up, and so we need to think about the wax block and how we're going to slice that up. Now, you can go with the old box grater, but if you use the old box grater, you've got to clean the old box grater, and that's never fun for anyone. That and the risk to your knuckles, this is a no-go for me. Honestly, I like the good old veggie peeler. It's easy to handle, it's easy to clean, and it just gives me a nice, thin, quick slice, and I usually peel that straight onto the fabric as I'm working. Very easy, and very little cleanup, so highly recommended. The other thing that does work quite well is a cheese slicer if you've got something like that, and that's actually probably easier for young kids to handle, where they can just pull that down the block instead of having to get the angle of a peeler right. So, oh, by the way, I grated up or peeled up a whole block of wax just to show you how much you get out of it. Same size block. That's easily enough to do 10 wraps of the size that we're going to make today, so it's quite remarkable how far it goes. So that's our tools, very easy. Now, if we are going to make wraps, one thing I wanted to mention, because we talked about colour bleed in fabrics yesterday, if I was going to make a group of wraps today, or a set of wraps, and I had varying colours, I would always make sure that I work from lightest to darkest, all right? So in this case, my owls has got a white background and I want to keep that as light as I can. I do that one first because if any of the orange or the blue bled out of these fabrics onto the paper and into the wax, that wouldn't end up in my white background. So that one first, then the orange, nice bright clear colours, and then finally my darkest colour, which is the blue dolphins. And that will give me a good finish on all my wraps. Today though, we've got a bit of Doctor Who going on. We've got some TARDISes and Daleks. And as I mentioned, I've got 2 edges pinked and 1 edge, or 2 edges cut with ordinary scissors. And the wax is going to hold that together for us, so we don't need to worry about it fraying. So, grab my block, and normally I would just peel straight onto the block. Given that I'm a bit of a klutz, and I don't want to keep you here all day, I've got my block that I pre-prepared earlier. So all I need to do is spread the wax around a bit. And I always like to make sure that I get a bit in the corners and around the edges. You don't need to cover every inch of the wrap. The wax is going to move through the fabric as it melts, but you do want to spread it around a bit. You don't just want to, say, drop a chunk in the middle. And honestly, it probably takes less wax than you think it will. But if you don't put enough on, don't panic, because it's very easy to go back in a couple of minutes and say, whoops, missed a spot, pop another piece on, give it another go. That's probably about right. Might want another little dab in that corner. All I need to do now is run another sheet of baking paper over the top. Now, I've got a good bit of a margin on the outside edges of my wrap, so that if I push the wax, and I will, out beyond the edge of the fabric, it's not going to end up on my work surface or on my iron. It's well protected. We're ready to go. Here's my iron. It's been heating up. Now, dry iron. We do not want to put moisture into this, so no steam. Make sure your iron is on a dry setting. And heat-wise, around the start of the cotton temperatures. It's quite a hot iron, but it doesn't need to be super hot. We want to get the wax into the fabric. We don't need to boil the wax. So, oh, and here's a good tip. Scrap of fabric, old face cloth, tea towel, just wrapped around the handle, just in case your hands get a bit sticky. No cleaning the iron. So on we go with our iron. Now, I don't want to push it around for a start. I'm just sitting the iron on it and letting that wax start to melt through. And you can see straight away that the paper will turn translucent where the wax is melting. So I can see where I'm doing the job and where I perhaps need to come back with a little bit more wax or something. We'll just take a minute to move that over it all and get it started, and then once I've got it all nice and flat, I can start to push the wax where I want it. Make sure it hits all the spots. Often get asked, oh, slicing the wax is such a nuisance. Can I pre-melt it? Can I put it in a pot and melt the whole block? Yeah, absolutely, go for it. I would suggest a double boiler, or just make sure that you can keep that wax melting on low temperatures. You don't need high temperatures again, so keep it as low as you can, and a double boiler is a good safe way to do that. And then you can use just a kid's natural fibre paintbrush to paint the wax onto the fabric. Again, you don't need to cover every inch of the fabric. What you do need to do though is, because the wax will be cooling as you're painting it onto the fabric, you've put the wax onto the fabric, but you then need to get it into the fabric. So you need to follow up that painting the wax on with either some direct heat from an iron, just like this, or with your oven. And it's about getting it into the fabric versus onto it. Some people ask, can I dip? Can I just dip my fabric in the wax blend? Yep, absolutely, same deal. Melt your blend in a pot, just keep the temperatures down, stay nice and safe. dip your fabric in, use some tongs or something to pull it out. You will burn your fingers otherwise, but I find that it puts a bit too much wax on. So again, my recommendation is to then follow it up with this method and iron it, but iron it together with a piece of fabric that hasn't been dipped. And the piece of fabric that hasn't been dipped is going to act as a wick and take up any excess wax. That's looked pretty good. I can see it's a little bit dry over here probably. Maybe a spot there, but everything else is looking pretty good. So let's take a look and see how we're going. Now you can see the wax is cooling as soon as I take that iron away, but it's easy, as long as I'm quick, to lift that straight up. Now if I'm happy with that now, all I need to do is give that a little waft just while the wax cools and sets, and that's done. But I can see that probably I've missed that corner a little bit. Wee spot over here that's a little bit dry. The rest of it's actually looking pretty good, but very easy just to come back, pop a little extra on there, little extra on there, maybe that corner too. And this is where if I wanted to do that dip method, another piece of fabric straight on top, paper over the top, iron the two together, and it will just wick up the extra wax, and you're halfway to having your next wrap made. Same answer, by the way, if you actually put on too much wax. Just pop another piece of fabric in, sandwich them together, iron them just like this, and the new fabric will take up the extra wax, and you're halfway to your next wrap. So I think we're actually about done. So just take off our paper. Now if you take that paper off, please make sure that you keep it face up. Don't put that hot melty wax down on your work surface because it will stick. But there. So look, the corners are warm, but I can touch them quite safely. They're not hot. All I need to do is move that around for a moment to let the wax set up, and bingo, that's our first wrap. You can see on the paper there's still quite a bit of wax left there. That's great, because when I put my next piece of fabric on, I need to add a little bit less wax because it's going to use that wax off the paper, and so on and so on. Just keep going. So there we go, one beeswax wrap. It needs a moment or more. It's cooling now, but it's ready to use. Other than that, so we're good to go. So what's left to do? Well, clean up. If you're going to make more wraps in the future, keep this paper. It's already loaded up with wax. You may as well keep it. Wrap your extra wax up and pop it in the cupboard. Because our blend uses jojoba oil, which doesn't go rancid because it's actually a wax rather than an oil, our blend will keep for years. Your veggie peeler, dishwasher, not dishwasher. Bit of dishwashing liquid, hot water in the sink, bit of a scrub brush. Take off any excess wax that you can manually first. That'll be clean. Sticky fingers, just a warm wash with soap and water, that'll be fine. Nail brush if you've got it under your nails. But actually, if you think about what's in our blend, with the jojoba oil, great skin conditioning oil. Beeswax, often used in skincare treatments. Same reason, great conditioner and humectant. And even the tree resin, antibacterial, very healing. So you've actually given your skin a lovely conditioning treatment. So that's a little bonus for you. There's your cleanup done. Your wrap is cooled down. Look, it's already scrunchy and sticky and ready to use. Have fun with that. Thanks for watching. Give it a go. Please come to our webpage, come to our Facebook page and tell us how you got on. Show us the results of your efforts. We'd love to see you. Thanks for watching.